3,000 years is a long time. Long enough for truth to become legend. Long enough for legend to become myth. And long enough for myth to become nothing at all. In the great halls of the Valari Collective, teachers told their students that humans never existed. They were just stories. Scary tales that old species invented to explain disasters and wars. Nothing more than imagination. Yuna did not believe this. She was young for an ambassador. Her blue skin marked her as Kirani, one of the smaller species in the collective. She worked in the diplomatic archives, a boring job that most people avoided. But Yuna loved it. She loved digging through old files. She loved finding forgotten things. Today, she found something that changed everything. The data chip was old. Very old. It came from a derelict station near the edge of the galaxy, a place no one visited anymore. The station had floated dead in space for centuries before a salvage team found it. They sold everything they found, including this chip, to the archives. Yuna put the chip into her reader. The files were damaged, but she could see enough. There were coordinates. There were ship logs, and there were biological samples with analysis reports. The reports described a species with red blood, 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin, short lives, high intelligence, humans. Yuna's hand shook. This was not a myth. This was evidence. Real evidence that humans had existed. That they had traveled through this very part of space. That they had been real. She took her findings to High Counselor Taiho immediately. He was an old man with gray scales and tired eyes. He led the science division of the collective and had little patience for young ambassadors with wild ideas. "This is fake," he said, without looking at the data. "Someone created it as a joke or to sell to collectors. Sir, the dating tests show this chip is over 2,000 years old. No one could fake that. Then it is a 2,000-year-old fake." Taiho pushed the chip back toward her. "Humans are not real, Ambassador Yuna. They never were. Please return to your actual work." Yuna left his office angry, but not defeated. She knew what she had seen. She knew it was real. She just needed to find someone who would listen. That night, she searched the network for anyone who studied human myths. Most results were jokes or entertainment. The one name appeared again and again in serious research papers. Professor Hyunwoo. He was old, even older than Taiho. He had spent 50 years studying stories about humans. Most people thought he was crazy. The university had forced him to retire early. Now he lived alone in a small apartment on a colony world far from the capital. Yuna sent him a message with images of her discovery. His response came within minutes. "Come immediately. Tell no one." She took leave from her job and traveled for 3 days to reach him. His apartment was filled with books and papers and artifacts. Maps covered every wall. He looked at her with eyes that burned with excitement. "I knew it," he said, holding the data chip like it was made of gold. "I always knew they were real, and now we have proof." "But what happened to them?" Yuna asked. "Where did they go?" Hyunwoo walked to his largest map. It showed the entire galaxy with red marks scattered across it. These are all the places where human stories come from. Every species has them. The Valari, the Kirani, the Torath. Everyone. And all the stories say the same thing. What did they say? That humans were hunted. That the old empires wanted to enslave them or destroy them. And that one day, they simply left. All of them. Every human in the galaxy disappeared in a single generation. Why would they leave? Where would they go? I do not know, but I believe they are still out there. Somewhere beyond our reach. Waiting. Waiting for what? Before. Hyunwoo could answer. Both of their communicators buzzed with emergency alerts. A priority message from the Valari military was broadcasting to every citizen in the collective. Fleet Commander Jizu appeared on screen. She was a sharp woman with cold eyes and a voice that never showed emotion. But today, even she looked disturbed. Citizens of the collective. 1 hour ago, a patrol ship near the Galactic Rim encountered an unknown vessel. The vessel did not respond to communication. Before contact was lost, the patrol transmitted a single image. We are sharing this image now for identification purposes. If anyone has information about this vessel or its origin, contact Military Command immediately. The image appeared. Yuna stopped breathing. The ship was massive. It was bigger than anything the collective had ever built. Bigger than space stations. Bigger than some moons. Its hull was dark and smooth and covered with markings in a language that no one in the galaxy had seen for 3,000 years. But Yuna had seen it. Tonight, in the files from the data chip. It was human language. Yunwu grabbed her arm. His old hands were shaking. "They are coming back," he whispered. "After all this time, the humans are coming back." Yuna stared at the image of the impossible ship. She thought about all the stories, all the myths, all the warnings that everyone had dismissed as fantasy. She wondered if the galaxy was ready for the truth. She suspected it was not. The galaxy had not slept in 3 days. The image of the human ship spread across every network, every world, every species. Some people called it a trick. Some called it an invasion. Some fell to their knees and prayed to gods they had forgotten. On the bridge of that very ship, Captain Minho watched the chaos with quiet eyes. The vessel was called Homeward Bound. It was one of 12 ships in the return fleet, sent by Earth Command to make contact with the galaxy that had forgotten them. Minho had trained his entire life for this mission. His father had trained for it. His grandmother had trained for it. 3,000 years of preparation had led to this moment. "They are afraid of us," said Lieutenant Sujin. She stood beside him, studying the intercepted transmissions from Valari space. Their military is mobilizing. Their politicians are arguing. Their people are panicking. Can you blame them? Minho asked. We are their ghost story come to life. Sujin was his first officer and oldest friend. They had grown up together in the academy on Earth. She was brilliant with numbers and terrible with people. Right now, her face showed worry. Our scans show the galaxy has changed completely. The empires that hunted our ancestors are gone. This Valari collective appears to be peaceful. They have not fought a real war in centuries. Good. We did not come here to fight. No, but they might fight us anyway, out of fear. Minho understood her concern. Human history had taught them a hard lesson. Fear made people dangerous. Fear made them attack first and ask questions never. The old empires had feared human potential, and that fear had nearly destroyed humanity completely. But running away had not solved anything. It had only delayed the problem. Earth Command had decided that humanity must return and face the galaxy again. This time, they would be too strong to destroy. Send a message, Minho ordered. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we want to talk. The message went out. For 6 hours, there was no response. Then a single ship approached the Homeward Bound. It was tiny compared to the human vessel, like a bird flying next to a mountain. They are sending a delegation, Sujin reported. 3 diplomats and a security team. Let them come. The delegation was led by a blue-skinned woman with nervous eyes. She introduced herself as Ambassador Yuna. Beside her was an old male with gray scales who did not introduce himself at all. He just stared at everything with his mouth open. Minho greeted them in the docking bay. He had dressed simply, as Earth Command instructed. No weapons. No armor. Just a plain uniform and an open hand. Welcome to Homeward Bound, he said. I am Captain Minho. We have waited a long time for this meeting. Yuna stared at him. She had read every myth and story about humans. She had expected monsters. She had expected giants with fire in their eyes and death in their hands. Instead, she saw a man. Just a man with tired eyes and a gentle voice. "You are real," she whispered. "Very real, and very happy to finally come home." The old male finally spoke. His voice cracked with emotion. "I am Professor Hyunwoo. I have studied your kind for 50 years. Everyone called me crazy. Everyone said humans were just stories. We are more than stories," Minho said. "We are survivors." He led them through the ship. Yuna counted over 10,000 humans on board, and this was just one vessel of 12. The technology around her was beyond anything she had ever seen. Medical bays that could heal any wound. Weapons that could crack planets. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. But what struck her most was how the humans acted. They smiled at her. They offered her food. They asked about her home and her family. They were warm in a way that the myths never mentioned. In a private meeting room, Dr. Yoonji waited for them. She was the mission's chief diplomat, a small woman with kind eyes and silver hair. Beside her stood Sergeant Dongwook, head of security. He was large and quiet and watched everything with careful attention. "Please sit," Yoonji said. "We have much to discuss." Hyunwoo could not contain himself. "Why did you leave? Where did you go? How did you survive?" Yoonji smiled sadly. "We left because we had no choice. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy wanted us dead. 5 different empires hunted us. They feared what we might become. They burned our colonies. They killed our children. We were nearly extinct." "So you ran," Yuna said. "We retreated. There's a difference. We found a cluster of stars beyond the galactic rim. A place no one else had claimed. We built a new home there. We grew strong. We developed technology that would ensure no one could threaten us again. And now you return," Hyunwoo said. "Why? Why now?" "Because the galaxy is our home too. We were born here. Our ancestors walked on worlds that still orbit these stars. We could not stay in exile forever." Dongwook spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and rough. "And because we finally have the strength to protect ourselves. We will never be victims again." The words hung in the air. Yuna understood them completely. She had read the old stories. She knew what the ancient empires had done to humans. The slavery, the experiments, the massacres. No species could endure that and not change. "The Valari Collective is not like those old empires," she said carefully. "We are peaceful. We do not want war." "We know," Yoonji said. "We have studied you for decades. We hoped you would be different. That is why we came openly instead of hiding." Before anyone could respond, alarms screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed. Minho pressed his communicator and listened to the urgent report. His face went pale. "What is happening?" Yuna asked. Minho looked at her. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes. "Real fear. The Devourer swarm," he said. "They have breached the galactic barrier. They are coming." Hyunwoo frowned. "I do not know what that is." "You would not. They have been gone for 3,000 years. Minho's hands clenched into fists. "They are the enemy that drove us away. The enemy that nearly killed us all. And now they have followed us back. The galaxy had just learned that humans were real. Now they would learn why humans had run. And why humans had finally stopped running." The Devourer swarm had no ships. They were ships. Living creatures the size of mountains that flew through space like fish through water. They ate everything: metal, rock, flesh, entire planets stripped to nothing in days. Admiral Geo stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched them approach on the long-range sensors. She was old, over 200 years, kept alive by medicine that the galaxy had never seen. A grandmother had survived the first Devourer War. She had told Geo stories about it when Geo was young. Nightmares dressed as bedtime tales. Now those nightmares were real again. How many? She asked her crew. Thousands, Admiral. Maybe millions. It is hard to count. They move like a cloud. Geo closed her eyes. Her grandmother had described the same thing. A cloud of death that swallowed stars. Humanity had barely escaped them the first time. They had hidden beyond the galactic rim and prayed the swarm would not follow. For 3,000 years, the prayer had worked. It was not working anymore. The human fleet gathered above Velari Prime, the capital world of the collective. 12 massive ships arranged in defensive formation. It looked impressive until you compared it to the swarm. Then it looked like 12 candles trying to hold back the night. On the surface below, High Counselor Taiho argued with everyone who would listen. "We cannot trust the humans," he said in the emergency council session. "They appear the same moment this threat arrives. That cannot be coincidence. They brought this enemy to us." Fleet Commander Jisoo slammed her hand on the table. "The humans are the only reason we know this threat is coming. Their sensors detected the swarm days before ours did. Without them, we would have no warning at all. Or perhaps they created this warning to make themselves look necessary." "You are a fool, Counselor." The chamber erupted in shouting. Species that had lived in peace for centuries suddenly remembered old grudges. Fear did that to people. It made them turn on each other instead of facing the real enemy. Ambassador Yuna watched the chaos with a heavy heart. She had spent the last 3 days working with the human diplomats. She had learned things about the swarm that made her sick with terror. These creatures did not negotiate. They did not stop. They consumed until nothing remained, and then moved on to find more. "May I speak?" The voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Professor Hyunwoo stood at the back of the chamber. He was just a retired academic. He had no right to address the council. But no one stopped him. "I have spent my life studying the humans," he said. "I have read every myth, every story, every fragment of evidence. I know what happened 3,000 years ago." He walked to the center of the room, his old bones moving slow but steady. The humans were not monsters. They were refugees. They came to this galaxy from somewhere else, somewhere lost to time. They built colonies. They made friends with other species. They were curious and loud and sometimes annoying, but they were not evil. He looked directly at Taiho. The old empires feared them because humans grew strong very fast. In just a few centuries, they went from primitive travelers to rivals of the greatest powers. Some empires wanted to enslave them for their potential. Others wanted to destroy them before they became too powerful. So they hunted the humans. Together, 5 empires united against one young species. The chamber was silent now. Everyone listening. And then the swarm came. No one knows where they came from. Some say another galaxy. Some say another dimension. But they came and they consumed. They ate 3 of those 5 empires in a single century. The remaining 2 collapsed into chaos. Only the humans survived, because the humans had been running already. They knew how to flee. They knew how to hide. He held up his hands. The humans did not bring this enemy. The swarm has always been there, waiting beyond the edge of known space. The humans simply knew about them when we did not. And now the humans have returned to warn us, to help us, to fight beside us. Why would they help us? Someone asked. We forgot them. We called them myths. We owe them nothing, and they owe us even less. The answer came from the door. Dr. Yoonji walked in, still wearing the same simple clothes from their first meeting. Sergeant Dongwook followed behind her like a shadow. We help you because we remember being alone, she said. We remember when the galaxy turned against us, when everyone wanted us dead, when we had no one to stand beside us. She walked through the crowd. The aliens parted before her like water. We survived. We grew strong. We could ignore you now. We could fly away and let the swarm have you. We would be safe. Our new home is far from here, protected by weapons you cannot imagine. She stopped in front of Taiho. But we are not that kind of people. We never were. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight for those who are too weak to fight. That is what makes us human. Not our strength, not our technology, our choice to use them for others. Taiho stared at her. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Fleet Commander Jizu stepped forward. What do you need from us? Yunji smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. Everything you have. Every ship. Every soldier. Every person willing to hold a weapon. The swarm is coming for your homeworld first. They always target the center of power. If Valari Prime falls, the rest of the galaxy will collapse into chaos. Can we win? The question came from Yuna. Her voice was small, but everyone heard it. Yunji looked at her. I do not know. The odds are against us. They always have been. But humans have a saying. We do not fight because we know we will win. We fight because it is right. Above them, the sky darkened as the first swarm scouts entered the system. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin. And for the first time in 3,000 years, humans would not fight alone. The sky burned. Captain Minho watched through his viewport as the swarm descended on Valari Prime. They came in waves, each creature the size of a city. Their skin was black and shiny like oil. Their mouths were endless tunnels lined with teeth that could chew through starship armor. All ships, engage. Admiral Geo commanded through the fleet channel. The human ships opened fire. Beams of light that could melt mountains cut across space. Missiles with planet-breaking warheads screamed toward the enemy. Swarm creatures died by the dozens. But there were thousands more behind them. They just keep coming, Lieutenant Sujin said. Her voice was calm, but her hand shook on her console. For everyone we kill, 10 more appear. Minho nodded. His grandmother had warned him about this. The swarm did not fear death. They did not retreat. They just consumed until nothing remained. Target the biggest ones, he ordered. If we can thin their numbers, we can buy time for the evacuation. Below them, the Valari were fleeing their capital world. Millions of civilians packed into transport ships. Children crying. Parents praying. The scene repeated across the planet as the collective tried to save what it could. Not everyone ran. On the surface, Sergeant Dongwook led a defense force in the capital city. His team was small. 50 human soldiers and 300 Valari volunteers. Against the swarm's ground forces, they might as well have been fighting the ocean. But they fought anyway. Hold this intersection, Dongwook shouted. The evacuation center is 2 blocks behind us. We give them time to escape. A young Valari officer named Heijin crouched beside him. Heijin had trained with humans for only 2 weeks. He had learned more about war in those 2 weeks than in his entire military career. They are too many, Heijin said. We cannot hold. We hold until we cannot. Then we fall back and hold again. And again. Until there is nothing left to protect, or no one left to protect it. A swarm ground form crashed through a building ahead of them. It was smaller than its spaceborne cousins, but still terrifying. 8 legs. A body like a twisted spider. A mouth that sprayed acid strong enough to dissolve metal. Dongwook raised his weapon and fired. The blast caught the creature in its center mass. It screamed and died. Another took its place. And another. And another. Fall back, Dongwook ordered. Slowly. Keep formation. They retreated step by step through the burning city. Behind them, the evacuation transports lifted off one by one. Each ship that escaped was a small victory. Each life saved was a reason to keep fighting. In the medical station nearby, Ambassador Yuna worked until her hands bled. Wounded poured in from everywhere. Humans, Valari, species she could not even name. She treated them all. She had no training for this, but she learned fast. Everyone learned fast when death was the only alternative. Dr. Yunji appeared beside her. Her fine diplomatic clothes were now covered in blood and dirt. She carried an injured child in her arms, a Valari boy with burns across his face. Put him here, Yuna said. I will treat him. You should evacuate. The swarm is getting closer. So should you. Yunji smiled grimly. I do not run. My people ran for 3,000 years. I am tired of running. They worked side by side through the night. Yuna had read stories about humans for weeks now. She had learned about their wars and their heroes and their legends. The books could not capture what she saw tonight. Humans did not give up. Even when hope was gone, even when logic said to flee, they stood their ground and fought for strangers they had just met. That stubbornness was not unique to humans, Yuna realized. The Valari volunteers showed the same spirit. Ordinary people who had never held weapons picked up rifles and defended their homes. Teachers protected students. Parents shielded children. The will to survive was universal. The choice to sacrifice was universal. Maybe that was why humans felt so determined to help. They recognized something of themselves in the galaxy they had left behind. In orbit, the battle reached its crisis. Admiral Geo studied the tactical display. The human fleet had destroyed over 2,000 swarm creatures, but lost 8 of their 12 ships doing it. The Valari fleet was nearly gone. Only emergency repairs and desperate tactics kept them fighting. And still the swarm came. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we have identified the command organism. It is behind the main formation, the creature directing all others. Geo looked at the display. The command organism was massive. A moon-sized bioship pulsing with dark energy. If they could destroy it, the swarm would lose coordination. They would scatter into confusion. The battle might turn. Can we reach it? She asked. No, Admiral. Our weapons cannot penetrate that deep into their formation. We would be destroyed before we got close. Geo closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother. She thought about all the humans who had died in the first swarm war. She thought about all the lives depending on her decision right now. She knew what she had to do. All ships, this is Admiral Geo. I am ordering you to continue the defense of Valari Prime. Do not break formation. Do not follow me, Admiral. Minho's voice came through the channel. What are you doing? What must be done? It has been an honor serving with you, Captain. Tell Earth that we kept our promise. Tell them we came home. She piloted her flagship forward. Alone, straight into the heart of the swarm. Her crew tried to stop her, but she had locked them out of the controls. This was her choice. Her sacrifice. The swarm creatures tore at her ship. Armor peeled away. Systems failed. Fires burned through corridors. But she kept going. Closer. Closer. Her final transmission reached both fleets. We came back because you are our galaxy too. Hold the line. The flagship struck the command organism at full speed. The explosion lit up the sky brighter than any sun. The command creature screamed across frequencies that shattered sensors across the system. And then it died. The swarm went mad. Without direction, they turned on each other. They scattered in random directions. They fled toward the edges of the system. The battle was not over, but the tide had turned, and the cost was measured in the life of the woman who refused to let her people run anymore. The fires took 3 weeks to stop burning. The Lari Prime had survived, but just barely. Entire cities were gone. Millions had died. The scars on the planet would take generations to heal, but it had survived. The galaxy had survived, and that was more than anyone expected. Admiral Jihil's funeral was held on the steps of the Valari Council building. It was the first human funeral in galactic history. Every species sent representatives. Leaders who had doubted humanity stood in silence as her memory was honored. Soldiers who had fought beside her wept openly. High Counselor Taiho gave the eulogy. The same man who had called humans myths and lies now spoke of them as heroes. "She did not know us," he said, his old voice cracking. "We have forgotten her people for 3,000 years. We had erased them from our history. And yet she died to save us. That is not the act of a monster or a myth. That is the act of someone who understood something we had forgotten. That the galaxy is a family. Broken and scattered and forgetful, but still a family." He turned to the human delegation. "On behalf of the Valari Collective, I formally invite humanity to return to the galactic community. Not as guests, not as allies, but as members. As brothers and sisters we should never have lost." Captain Minho, now promoted to Commodore, accepted the invitation. He spoke simply, as humans often did. "We accept. We came home to stay." The galaxy changed quickly after that. Professor Hyunwoo began his greatest work. A complete history of humanity, written with help from Dr. Yoonji and the Human Archives. It told the true story of the species that had been erased from memory. Their struggles, their exile, their return. The book was translated into every language in the collective. Schools added it to their required reading. Children who had grown up thinking humans were fairy tales now learned they were neighbors. Sergeant Dongwook received command of a new joint military academy. The first class had students from 18 different species, all learning to fight together the way humans and Valari had fought on the surface of the capital. His best instructor was Haejun, the young officer who had stood beside him during the worst of the battle. "Courage is not the absence of fear," Haejun told his students on their first day. "It is the choice to act despite fear. I learned that from a human. Now I teach it to you, and one day you will teach it to others." The students listened. Some of them had lost family in the war. Some of them had been refugees fleeing the swarm. All of them wanted to make sure it never happened again. Fleet Commander Jisoo retired from military service. She had seen enough war for one lifetime. Instead, she became a diplomat, working to strengthen the alliance between humanity and the collective. She often quoted Admiral Geo in her speeches. "The galaxy is worth fighting for. All of it. Everyone in it." Those words became a motto for the new era. They were carved into monuments. They were printed on the hulls of ships. They reminded everyone of the price that had been paid for their survival. Ambassador Yuna received a promotion too. She became the chief liaison between the collective and humanity. It was a big job for someone so young, but she had earned it. She had stood in the fire and not run. That mattered more than age or experience. She met with Dr. Yoonji regularly. Their conversations had started as diplomatic discussions, but had become something more. Friendship. Real friendship between two people from different worlds who had found common ground in the worst possible circumstances. "Do you miss Earth?" Yuna asked one day. Yoonji thought about it. "Sometimes. It is beautiful there. Green and blue and full of life. But this galaxy is beautiful too. Different beautiful. I think I can learn to love it. Will your people stay? Forever?" I hope so. We are tired of being alone. Tired of hiding. This is where we belong. Eunice smiled. I am glad. The galaxy was incomplete without you. We just did not know it. 1 year after the battle, a ceremony was held to mark the anniversary. Leaders gathered. Speeches were given. Memories were honored. But the moment that meant the most happened far from the crowds. In a small classroom on Valari Prime, a teacher named Mary was answering questions from her students. They were young, barely old enough to remember the war. But they had heard stories. They had seen the ships in the sky. A little girl raised her hand. Teacher, my grandmother tells me humans are scary. She says they used to destroy whole planets and eat their enemies. Is that true? Mireille smiled. She had heard the same stories when she was young. Everyone had. Those are old myths, she said. From a time when people did not understand humans. Let me tell you the true story. She walked to the window. Outside, a human transport was descending through the clouds. It carried medical supplies for a recovering colony. Its hull bore an inscription in both human standard and Valari script. We remember. We return. We remain. Humans are people, Mireille said. Just like us. They laugh and cry and love and fear. They make mistakes and learn from them. They are strong, yes, but they use that strength to protect others. They came back to the galaxy, not to conquer, but to help. And they stayed because they finally found what they had been looking for. What was that? The girl asked. Home, family, a place where they belonged. The transport landed in the distance. Humans stepped out, carrying boxes of supplies. Valari workers came to help them. Together, they began unloading, talking and laughing as they worked. The galaxy called humans a myth for 3,000 years, Mireille said. We forgot them. We erased them. We turned them into monsters in our stories. She looked at her students. The future of the collective. The generation that would grow up knowing humans as friends instead of legends. But they never forgot us. They never stopped caring about the home they had lost. And when we needed them most, they came back. The little girl watched the humans through the window. One of them waved at her. She waved back. That is not a myth, Mireille said softly. That is the truth. And it is the most human thing of all. Outside, the sun rose over a healing world. Humans and Valari worked side by side under its light. The scars of war remained, but new growth was already beginning. New friendships. New alliances. New hope. The galaxy had called humans a myth. Their return had changed everything. And this time, they were here to stay. The end.